just I'm gonna put in the sunshot here. Third. Welcome back. Again, I'm Jason Ross, and this is day two. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about this video setup, actually. So uh, I'm streaming this currently live on YouTube, although I won't have anybody watching right now just simply because I haven't done any advertising for it. But if you do happen to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you should be able to sign up to get notifications so that when I do go live, you can actually tune in and watch me talk. And even there's a chat feature that I'll have open for the next time I do this. That will allow you, if you wanted to send questions to me in real time, instead of talking my laptop there. But anyway, so I'll get that set up for tomorrow. But basically, I just wanted to kind of go through exactly how it is I shoot a live stream, because it's actually quite simple. And you can do it with free tools, which is exactly what I'm using on here on my laptop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my view here, oops, wrong mouse, over to my desktop. I'm just going to transition over here for a second. And I'll keep myself down the lower third. And I'm just going to put a splash screen here so I don't get quite so much stuff going on here. So basically what we're looking at here is the application, it's a free application called OBS, which I think that stands for Open Source Broadcast System. But basically it's a free broadcasting system. There are builds of it so it'll work on Windows, it'll work on OS X, and it'll work on Linux. And currently I'm using it on Windows 10 devices, as you can see by down here, the menu bar there at the bottom. Of course, it's Windows, but I have run this in OS X and it works exactly the same. So if you've never used a video broadcasting piece of software, a lot of the concepts are the same. This is a very simplified interface, although they've been adding features. In fact, I hadn't touched this in about a year, and when I got back on, there's actually a whole bunch of there's a few nice new features that I've noticed right off the top. Particularly what we're looking at here, I'll use my mouse to sort of point around, so you should be able to see that on screen. So on the left-hand side here is a preview of a chosen scene. I can define a number of scenes for my video broadcast. On the right-hand side is the actual preview window, so what's actually getting shown out on the screen. This is also why you happen to see my image in the bottom right-hand corner, this sort of mirror instead of a mirror effect, because you're seeing the preview window inside of a preview window, and so on and so forth. It goes down to infinity there. But basically, what this application allows me to do is to change, here I'll switch over to a transition here, you see, so there's me as just full screen, but I can also go back to that desktop setting, hit a transition, and now all of a sudden we're back to my desktop. So I can switch between different cameras. So if I actually had multiple cameras hooked up to this computer, I could even use this application to switch between those camera shots on a live basis. This is not something that I used in my own video work before very much, mostly because I tended to be out in the field, so I didn't have cameras that could live stream, and also I was basically just using hand camcorders, especially if you've been a long time viewer of this web channel or YouTube channel. A lot of the video that I shot were things like council meetings, where I'd actually go to council meetings and set up my cameras, and I had 3 cameras as my main setup, where I basically set a tripod up in 3 different locations with different shots, different parts of the shot sort of in frame to each of the cameras. And then I'd shoot for the whole event. I'd sort of hop between camera and camera, because I could actually run the whole thing myself, although ideally you'd want to have a separate camera operator per camera. But again, I was doing this all by myself. And so when you've got a camera set up with multiple cameras, you can either in post-production, which if you're just shooting it and then doing all the editing afterwards, you would take those multiple cameras that are all capturing the same event and then put them into a multi-camera editing application like Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, or if you go on the more professional side, there's like Avid and all sorts of There are dozens of these types of applications, but Premiere is probably the most popular one as far as consumer level, anyway. Um, anyway, so uh, what I was going to say was, um, so this editing suite, what it allows me to do is to define a number of scenes. So let me bring my mouse over here. So you can see I have a scene which is a splash, which is what I start my podcast with, or my blog with. And then I'll also throw to that same splash screen when I'm just about to sign off. I've created a one shot, which is just a single camera shot of me, which is the one that you'll see most often. There's also one with a lower third, so that when I start the video blog, I'll throw my name up there so people know who I am without having to introduce myself. Um, I also added a new lower third, which I'll do at the end of the program here as well. But just to show you, it's another basically lower third of text. Lower third just means basically the lower third of the screen, pretty much. It's a video editing terminology. That's all it just means. It's a label of text or some sort of graphic that's going at the bottom third of the screen. You'll see this on most professional broadcasts. So anyway, here's a lower third with my social media contacts, and again, I'll throw that up at the end of the screen, at the end of the broadcast. And then finally, we have our desktop, which now all of a sudden you're seeing me showing up in a real fractal-y kind of way, just because we're seeing the scene I've selected is also the one that's actually going out on the broadcast right now. So here, let me throw this back to the splash just so you don't get so much noise going on. But basically, each one of these scenes, if you'll see, so these are my list of scenes here. To the right of it, you'll see all of the, actually, I guess I should go down to this window here. So in this window here is where all the sources are set up for an individual scene. So you see as I click on these, the number of sources that change, and each part of this is sort of a different thing that's put in. So essentially, for my one-shots, all three of my one-shots will have an audio input capture and a video capture device. And that's because I'm using the webcam, which you can see if I point right there. That's my webcam that I'm using to shoot this video. That's my video capture device. My audio capture device is this lapel mic, which I've got on over here. Right, when I whack it, so you probably get a little fluff on the audio. But basically, this is a wireless pack, which here's the wire. It just basically comes out into this pack, which is a little short-range radio transmitter. And then I've got another radio receiver on the other end with a little antenna, and this plugs through this cable here into my laptop, and then I just hook it up as an audio source, essentially. So this is going to be sort of my on-the-road rig. So if I want to go out on location somewhere and shoot some web video, I can take my mic pack and my laptop, and I don't really need anything else. Although I was thinking after my video broadcast yesterday that I've got a webcam somewhere packed away. So I'm going to see if I can try and find that, because I think it'll probably give me a better video image. This didn't seem to look too bad when I posted it up on YouTube, but definitely I noticed on my screen it still looks a little bit hazy. It's only 1080p, so it's a fairly low resolution video camera. Especially today, the standard is slowly moving towards 4K, which is 4 times the resolution, and a much bigger display. But I would need better cameras for that, and that'll be an upgrade I'll have to do if I want to go to that level of resolution. I'll upgrade later on this year. But anyway, so going back to the application here. So essentially, each one of these, again, so you see here with the lower third, it's also got the audio input and the video capture, but it also has this name thing, which is essentially, if I double click on this, you can see it's actually a text. So here's the actual text you can see. You can see an option here for selecting a font, which is just set to Arial by default. Basically, any font that's installed in your computer, you can select here and choose if you want to be bold or italic or give it a font size. You can just type it in if you know, or you can select the value here. Gives you a little sample. You can even do strikeouts, underlines, and I guess you can choose multiple languages too. So anyway, it's a little bit, I mean, for free software, these are going to be a little bit, you know, it's a little clunky, the interface, but it does work. Like I said, this text area works, but I can't see any way to set margins around my text, so I wanted my text not to be flush with the box here. So in order to do that, I had to put a space around the largest line. I would have had to do it on both lines if this was left aligned, but as you can see, it's center aligned here, so really it's only the widest one that would be of an issue. So I throw an extra space at the start of the word here, and also another one at the end, and that gives it a little bit of a margin, which I imagine if I added an extra space here on both sides, you see it gets pushed in. It also drops the font slightly, but basically, not that one. There we go. Anyway, so and there's a number of things. You can set the background color, which is just set to a white here with a full opacity. There's a couple other options, but vertical and white, that sort of thing. But anyway, so I hit cancel. I just won't make any changes here. Anyway, so like I said, what this allows me to do, and so even here on the desktop, you can see I've actually got two sources because I've got the desktop, which is my full screen screenshot here, but there's also my little camera in the corner because this is actually a separate input source. So this is my display capture, my video capture sources down here, and I can even increase or decrease the size of this window if I want, and move it around on the screen. I'm just going to snap it back there and then switch it back to blacklight. So again, I don't get so much noise here. But basically that's it. I mean, the only other thing that I have to do in order to actually stream is I have to connect to a streaming source. So if I go into my settings panel here by clicking the button, there's a stream panel, and this shows me a number of streaming services. And the settings that you're going to have for each streaming service will differ. I use YouTube streaming, so that's what I've got selected here. And the other thing that you have to do in order to set up live streaming is you have to go onto YouTube and set up you have to create a YouTube account, and then inside of YouTube's account settings, there'll be a streaming section, and maybe I'll go through that at a later date because I didn't actually get that set up. But effectively what you'll get is a key, and then you type that key in here. You see the stream key here, and it's encrypted just for my protection, but you can show it if you're not sure if you got the key correctly. You can always look at it. And then once you've set up the streaming service and the key, all you have to do is click Start Streaming, which you can see right now it's set to Stop Streaming, which means we're actually streaming live. But that's it. It's actually quite easy once you go through a couple small steps and learn, like I said, an application that's fairly easy to use. It's a fairly straightforward application. Oh, there is one thing that I have that's not on by default, which is you can see studio mode here. If I click that off, you're actually only going to see the live version of what's going on out on the web. But I switch to studio mode, it allows me to key up the next scene and then click on transition. I can switch on a fade, or I could add a different type of transition. There's actually, you can see cut to fades, and I don't know if this application has other transitions or not, but those are probably your two most common anyway. The difference between a cut and a fade, if you aren't familiar, is a cut simply switches like this between one source and another. So in this case, one scene and another. So I could, if I clicked on a cut transition, so let me actually set this up. If I hit cut right now, you see it just snaps, just like that. And then if I switch back, cut, and it switches back. Now a fade, on the other hand, does a fade out like that. And again, fades between the two. And the difference you can see here is set at 300 milliseconds. So about a third of a second it takes to transition between the two scenes. So anyway, that is basically video streaming in a nutshell, with OBS anyway. There are a large number of commercial applications that will also do this for you, and they will have their own sort of interface, of course. But the basic concept of scenes and transitions, and choosing from different video source and audio source and all that sort of stuff should be basically the same. But like I said, I have no problems using OBS. It's a great free piece of software. So Anyway, that is about all I really wanted to talk about today. So I will sign off. But thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Don for saying hi. A friend of mine checked out the video and gave it a thumbs up. So I appreciate that. But anyway, we will chat with everyone tomorrow. And right, actually, let me do the first things first. Social media. So I'll pop that up for a second here. So again, if you want to contact me, let's switch this over. My email is moderndemocracy@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Ross and on Facebook at Modern Democracy page. Um, yeah, so those are the three easiest ways to find me. If you want to ask a question or you have something that you'd like me to talk about specifically, feel free to shoot me a message through one of those sources. And like I said, if you have a question, I can read it on the air and try my best to answer it. But otherwise, that is basically that. So if you want, I can actually walk you through what I'm going to do just to reinforce this transition stuff. So here, let me switch back over to the desktop. So what I'm going to do now, I just switched up my one shot with the lower third contact. I hit transition, the fade transition, so it faded over. So now what I'll do is to sign off on the podcast. The last thing I'll do is I'll load up my splash screen, and that's what I'll use to fade out. So I will sign off. Thank you again. And again, if you like this, please subscribe, and we will chat with you tomorrow.